Welcome to the Every Mom is an Athlete podcast, where we believe that motherhood is inherently athletic. I see you lifting car seats, chasing toddlers, and carrying groceries one-handed while holding a baby and a coffee. Your daily life is a workout. I'm Dr. Karlie, pregnancy and postpartum expert, sports chiropractor, strength coach, entrepreneur, and mom of three. Here you'll find solo episodes and real conversations with other moms and leading experts, so you can live your strongest, healthiest, most aligned life in motherhood. No matter how long it's been since you've had your baby, whether you're reconnecting with your body, rebuilding your strength, or just figuring out what feels good again, you're in the right place. Hello, strong moms, and welcome back to Every Mom is an Athlete. Today, I want to touch on a subject that I hear a lot about in my office. So many people have questions about it, and it is posture. But before we get started, I want to remind you, if you are a newly postpartum mom and you haven't checked out my postpartum plan yet and my C-section plan, you are going to want to check that out. A lot of the postural stuff I talk about today, we work on in that plan, as well as tons of strengthening, core work, glute work, healing that diastasis or the separation in your abs, all that good stuff. So check out that link below. Let's talk about posture. So the things I hear in my office the most are, one, obviously I see mostly pregnant and postpartum women, right? And so what are we always complaining about? I mean, lots of things. I complain about lots of things, but especially back and neck pain. And it makes sense, right? Because if you think about what's happening to our bodies during pregnancy, everything is starting to pull forward, not just the belly, but as our chest gets bigger, everything kind of like our weight is pulling us forward. And so what that does is it stretches out the upper back muscles. And if we don't really work to strengthen those and reverse that pulling forward, we can end up in a world of hurt. I remember very distinctly after I had my first son sitting and having this conversation with myself, like, okay, I know that my neck is not broken. I know that. I'm a chiropractor. There's no way I could have broken my neck, but my neck hurt so bad because I was just constantly looking down at him. Obviously, I was nursing him, carrying him a lot, and I know how to have good posture, right? I teach people this every day, but still, it is just so hard, especially in that first little bit of new motherhood where you're exhausted. Maybe you know how to have good posture, but you just can't it's obviously not your priority. And then what can happen is that can carry through as the baby gets older, right? And so now all of a sudden here you are with a toddler. Your body is more similar to how it was before you had a baby. And, you don't have this big belly pulling you forward and you're not carrying them all the time. You're not nursing them all the time, but still your posture has changed because you got so used to that positioning. So today what I want to talk about is some ideas on how to help with posture, whether you're pregnant or postpartum, like newly postpartum, or your kids are like 21. This is going to be applicable for all of us. The first thing I want to touch on is that your posture is dynamic. When we think about posture, I think most of us think about like that perfectly rigid, straight spine. In fact, you're probably sitting up a little straighter in your seat right now just because I'm talking about posture, because that's what people always do in my office. And I am actually doing it too. But that's not what like sustainable posture is, okay? What we're looking for is not that perfect posture, but a posture that is going to decrease pain. It's going to keep us more functional. And it's really more about movement. If you think about our past and like how we were, thousands and thousands of years ago, our bodies were not really made to sit in a still position, right? Even if we were newly postpartum, we would still have to be being up, gathering berries, chasing after kids, like doing all kinds of things. And so now in our modern culture, as a society in a whole, we just sit way too much. So that has had a dramatic effect on our posture, and not only what we think about posture, but like what we're actually doing with our bodies. So one thing I always recommend people do is really think about posture as changing of position. Okay. So yes, do you want to sit up straight? Do you want to make sure that you're not rounded forward towards your computer with your chin sticking out? Yes. And we'll talk about that more in a minute. But I really want to encourage you to also think about posture as like movement. So every 30 to 60 minutes, changing your position, whether that means you go for a little walk, whether that means you stand up, whether that means you change what you're even sitting on, right? Like go to a yoga ball or go to a different chair or a stool or stand for a little bit. But think about posture as more dynamic. And you can even think about like adding some little stretch breaks in there, right? So what I have people do a lot is if you're standing, so let's say you get your left leg back, you're going to squeeze your left butt cheek, okay? Because that is going to open up your hip flexor on the front. And then You can sink down into that a little bit by bending your knees. Then you're going to take your left arm, so all of this on the same side, and you're going to reach overhead like laterally, so kind of like up and over to the side. And that's going to stretch out your main hip flexor, which is called your psoas. Okay, so that's a great one. Those get super tight on us because we sit so much. So even just that little stretch break, that can make a huge difference on how those muscles are pulling on our spine and our general posture all the way through our spine, because it's not just one section of the spine we want to think about when we talk about posture. It's the entire thing, our neck, our mid back, and our low back, and even into our pelvis. So, what is the ideal posture? This is another question I get a lot. Like I mentioned before, the ideal posture is just to make sure that everything is in line, okay? So, there's a couple of things I have people do. One, I think that is helpful is think of a string from your head, right? Like pulling you straight up towards the ceiling. You're probably doing that right now. But as you do that, you'll notice what happens. Your spine elongates, your neck actually elongates too, which often will pull your chin back a little bit. We end up with our chin out so much or down because we're looking at computers, at phones, at screens, yada, yada. I could go on and on about that. But what we want to do is get that chin and neck pulled back. There's even a position that I like to have people do. It's called Brugger's relief posture. This is another little break that you can do throughout the day. And what you're going to do is you're going to sit up nice and tall. You're going to really squeeze your shoulder blades back together. You can do this right now, honestly, even if you're in your car. You don't have to like take your hands off the wheel, but squeeze those shoulder blades together. Then bring your chin all the way back. You hear how my voice is like kind of weird right now because it's like kind of cutting it off. So you're going to bring your chin back. That's what will happen. And give yourself like a double chin, like a really gnarly double chin. Make sure you're not looking down, look straight ahead, but pull that chin back. Give yourself that double chin. What that does is that's going to loosen and let relax the muscles on the very back of your neck, like up at your skull, those little tiny muscles that get so tight and sore on everyone and that we just love to have massaged. That's going to help those relax. And then it's going to engage the deep neck flexors, which are the muscles which are way down, like on the front side of your spine. And those are what stabilize our neck. So even just doing this position for 10, 20, 30 seconds at a time, let me review, sit up straight, pull the shoulder blades back and down. If you're at a desk, you can also like reach your arms out wide and just kind of stretch your pecs or your chest muscles. And then pull that chin back, give yourself that nasty double chin, okay? Not looking down, looking straight ahead. And hang out like that for like 10 to 30 seconds. I liken this to like, I'm sure there's lots of examples of this. I always think of like a baseball player, because I just love baseball, where they warm up with a weight on the bat, right? Or like if you think about weightlifting, you might warm up with a little bit heavier weight. And then when you take that weight off for whatever you're going to do next, that lighter weight or the bat without the weight feels lighter, right? Like it feels easier. So that's what this is. This is an exaggerated posture. It's not like the posture we're supposed to always be in. You're not supposed to be walking around with a crazy double chin like that. But it's going to exaggerate it so that when you go back to your natural posture, your normal posture, it's going to be a little more neutral. You're not going to be so like head jutted forward, rounded the shoulders, that sort of thing. Other things that are great for our posture. So my very favorite thing that you can do in the gym is farmer's carries. Okay, so if you're like, but Karlie, this is great, all this little like postural stuff through the day. I want stuff that I can work on actively in the gym. Farmer's carries are my go-to. You really want to pull those shoulders back and down. Get some heavy weights, okay? Like you should be carrying something heavy that's making you work a little bit. And maybe you can't even carry it for a minute. Maybe it's like 30 seconds. But really work on that nice tall posture, making sure you're not looking at the ground, you're looking straight ahead. And what that's going to do is, yes, it works your core, but it's also going to work all the stabilizers around your shoulders. So that's one of the ones I give to almost everyone who either needs to or wants to or both work on posture. Like I've even had some 60, 70, almost 80-year-olds in my office who want to work on posture and they're really worried about that hump on their back. And that's one of the first things I give them to work on is carrying some heavy weight, one in each hand, and just going, taking it for a little walk, 3 sets of a minute, sets of 30 seconds, something like that. And let's talk a little bit about that hump in the neck. You guys know what I'm talking about. If you reach back and touch like right at the bottom of your neck, there's one vertebrae that like sticks out a little bit more than the others. That's where your neck is transitioning into your upper back. The reason that we get this hump is truly from head forward posture, okay? And for most people, I'll tell you, for most people, it is reversible, okay? Sometimes as people get older, women get older, you get like sort of a fat pad there, and that gets a little bit tougher. But for most people, this is due to postural muscular imbalances, and we can make improvements to it. In fact, I was doing a little bit of research before this podcast just to like give you guys some stats, but with strength training, you can actually reduce that hyperkyphosis is what it's called, like that like hump position, or basically like the rounding of the spine, by 15 to 20% in 6 to 12 weeks. And you can improve that by 30% or more when you strength train and you're doing postural breaks. So let that be a little lesson to you. This stuff is important, and we can make really big improvements with just really minimal change and really, like, honestly, like quite a little bit of effort. Other things you can do to improve posture. There's a few other ones that I love. Number one would be upper back or thoracic mobility. Now, if you're looking for help on this, you might want to check out my social media. I talk about this a lot. Shoot me a message. Actually, if you're even interested in more, and I can send you over some videos at Dr. Karlie on Instagram. I don't really answer the DMs on TikTok, to be honest, because it gets real sketchy over there. But shoot me a message if you want more. But thoracic mobility, that looks like cat-cows, open books, any kind of thoracic rotation, stretching your pecs or rolling out with a lacrosse ball your pecs. I have my patients do that very often because if you think about it, if the pecs, right, those are your shoulder muscles on the front, if they're pulling you forward, it's going to be real hard for your upper back to pull back, okay? Those muscles are just generally stronger. So stretching the front, stretching the chest, and then also strengthening the back. And that's going to look like any sort of like rows, lat pull downs, anything where you're engaging the muscles between the shoulder blades or right underneath the shoulder blades. That's going to help pull you up into that better position. And so those two go really well. Stretch the front, strengthen the back. Also, as you know, I love talking about breathing. So 360 breathing, that breathing all the way around the core, not just out into your belly, like belly breathing. We want to breathe all the way out. So what I'll have people do is put your hands on your lower ribs on the sides. Do it right now. If you're driving, maybe do it later, but put those hands on the ribs, take a big breath in, and then really try to expand your ribs out laterally and not just straight ahead. So that's going to help you engage your diaphragm, engage all the muscles, your core muscles, your abdominal muscles that also help compress your pelvis, which stabilizes your spine. You guys, it is all connected. I know it's crazy, but it really is all connected. So when we're talking about this stuff, we have to look at all of it, right? We have to look at the breathing. We have to look at the strength. We have to look at the mobility, and don't get overwhelmed by it. These are all just little pieces that can help us to improve our posture, breathe better, strengthen our core. They all go together. All right. That is enough for now. Maybe we'll do another episode on like ergonomics at the computer and with the baby and like all that stuff, because I feel like that could be helpful too, but I do not want to just like ramble on too much on this episode. So if you are newly postpartum or pregnant and you want a structured plan that helps support your posture, your core, all those things, check out the links below. You guys know I have core plans for both pregnancy, for postpartum, for even 6 months and farther postpartum. I have a Fix Your Abs plan just really for anyone maybe who didn't do much core rehab after having their babies or just feels like they need a reset. That's a great plan too. So if you have any questions, you know where to find me. I'm arguably too active over on Instagram at Dr. Karlie. Until next time, have a great week, Strong Moms.
Thanks for listening. Every Mom is an Athlete isn't just a podcast. It's a reminder. Motherhood is athletic, and you're still the athlete you've always been. But it's not about going back. It's about moving forward intentionally and powerfully. If this episode resonated with you, I'd so appreciate it if you'd share it with a friend, leave a quick review, or rate the show. It helps more moms to hear what they need to believe, that every mom is an athlete. See you next time.